What's going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check, and here I am a week late to talk to you about SummerSlam weekend. Now, I'm going to be really brutally honest with you guys right off the bat. I wasn't intending on this being a solo video. I wasn't intending on being up here on camera. I was going to do the "you don't see my pretty sexy face so you know I'm not alone." Unfortunately, I was supposed to do this video with Jake DeMarco. Jake DeMarco, unfortunately, not able to join us tonight, whenever you're listening to this. For those of you that follow either this channel or Jake's own channel or follow Jake's contributions on the Joe Cronin show, I'm not going to get too much into his business, but basically life's kicking him in the ass and he wasn't able to join me this week. I do want to send a shout out though. Any of you that know him, any of you that follow him on Twitter, etc., go to Countdown Ended and show the guy some love, because while he was explaining to me everything that was barreling down on him in the past couple of days, his first statement to me was, "Hey, sorry I can't make it tonight, I don't want to be unreliable," to which I replied, I don't remember the last time a week went by where Jake DeMarco wasn't a strong presence on this channel. I'm very, very lucky to have the co-hosts that I do, from Kristen to Guapo to people that have worked with me before, Connor aka OK Fabe, who we're going to get back on the channel for something eventually, I hope, but shout out to Jake, who is really been somebody I've leaned on, especially in the past couple of months, for making content on this channel. One of the few people still willing to talk with me on not on camera, but in podcast form about WWE and about NXT as they go down the shitter. So shout out to you, Jake. Everybody that watches me probably knows who you are. If you're living under a rock, you still probably know who Jake is. Go send him some love. He's a good dude and he deserves it, and we'll get him back on here really, really soon, I promise. Now, getting back to what we're talking about tonight, and you can tell that when it's just me, and you're going to get some rambling instead. Couldn't talk about the whole weekend. Could not come up here by myself and talk about the whole weekend. It wasn't what we were going to do in a collab anyways, because to go over the entire SummerSlam card, the entire Emergence card, the entire TakeOver card, the entire Rampage show, and probably I would have found a way to stick in the Destiny show that I was at as well. Shout out to new Destiny Next Generation champion Aiden Prince, who absolutely tore his forehead open earning that championship on Sunday before TakeOver. That was a really good show that I'll probably have to talk about in another video. What I will do, and what I had decided to do, was that we would talk about the 5 big news makers of SummerSlam weekend, and it's pretty obvious. Everybody that's done any content on wrestling since SummerSlam has basically talked about at least 3 of the 5 people that I'm going to talk about. The last 2 are NXT, and I know NXT's fallen off a cliff, so maybe you won't agree with me, and I'm leaving the NXT portion of this to the end anyway. But I would be remiss. As much as I take my shots at AEW, I would have to start the conversation about SummerSlam weekend talking about only the second ever episode of Rampage, kicking off with the debut of CM Punk. Now, I don't feel the need to go forever and ever and ever about this. If I had Jake here propping me up, making me look better, we could have a conversation about it, because we haven't had a chance to talk about it just yet. But my initial thoughts of CM Punk showing up on Rampage were on my Rampage review. Cheap plug, go back a couple videos. It's the video before my angry NXT review this week, because NXT this week shit the bed. Oh yes, it did. But I will say, CM Punk showing up in AEW did a lot of things. You can read into the shots, the veiled shots at WWE. You can read into his message to the fans. You can read into the fact that basically he was told by, as has been reported in the news, he was basically told, go out there, we don't care what you say, spill your heart, say what you feel, just make sure you mention All Out and you mention Darby Allin, which is fair enough, and CM Punk did that. Now, I will say, hindsight being what it is, as I'm recording this on a Thursday, time travel is wonderful, is it not? The promo that he cut on Dynamite was not the same. Much smaller crowd, much different reaction, much more muted reception. Same message, same I'm here because I think this is the place that listens to the fans. There's a whole bunch of people that I want to work with in the back. I really did like his shout out to Britt Baker on Rampage, the very first words out of his mouth once he had a microphone in his hand were, "Man, you guys really know how to make somebody feel like Britt Baker in Pittsburgh." I thought that was really cool. The way he addressed not, and I'm not even going to get into the whole AEW taking shots at WWE thing, because this is sort of separate from that, but the way he had a genuine apology tone to some of his promo, and the way that he addressed the fans, and he sort of said, like, hey, to anybody who's been frustrated or saddened or bummed out by the choices that I've had to make, this is why. And without really saying it, he sort of said, hey, don't worry, I'm going to make it up to you, which is a really cool thing. The references he did make to WWE, I didn't find as egregious, because while they were definitely references to WWE, it wasn't like the Jericho thing. Remember when Jericho first introduced the Inner Circle, and they were doing the "We the People" chant to Jake Hager, the former Jack Swagger, and he said, "We the People is dead. It was a stupid idea from stupid creative." Like, that was a shot across the bow. CM Punk's references were more about, like, just... And he wasn't even saying "poor me." He was just saying, like, this was my pain, this was my illness, this is what I was suffering with, both mentally, physically, psychologically, etc. So even the shots were not shots, if that makes sense. And it's really cool to see. I saw the take out there that, oh, if they get a ratings bump, those aren't going to be AEW fans, they're going to be CM Punk fans. Well. You could make that argument for literally everybody. I've made the argument before about how many ex-WWE folks are in AEW, and that is a conversation to have. But I think in general, because of the way, I mean, CM Punk was dealing with health issues, but they weren't health issues that would have taken him off the wrestling map. Wrestling just, like, without being sappy, wrestling hurt him so much that he had to break up with it. And I think there's such a unique, for those people that were watching him when he was in WWE, followed his immediate actions afterwards, followed the Colt Cabana podcast, even though there was some negative fallout from that. There's a genuine sadness to that. And I think it was not that we adopt wrestlers, that's a bit condescending, but, like, sort of when you see a friend and you can't help them going through what they're going through, but you see them on a particular day, or you go to the ball game, or you see them at the mall or whatever, and you see them smile for the first time in a while, and you're like, I can't really do anything to help you, but I think you're going to be okay. Like, there was a little bit of element of that. Am I crazy? Am I reading way too much into that? I don't know. Calling out Darby Allin for All Out, and I mean, All Out's an insane card. I can't bring myself to shit on AEW right now. You guys know, even though they're falling down right now, my bias is still towards NXT, because when NXT fires properly, which I hope is still going to happen, when NXT fires properly, it is in the style and in the way that I like, and it sort of talks to me because I've come up on WWE stuff most of my life. So my bias is still towards NXT, but I've never said AEW's bad. I said they did this, and this that I didn't like. Most of those things surround Cody Rhodes and the other owners, etc. But to be balanced, and I hate to say this because I've gone back just this past week and listened to my own NXT review, I am way harder on WWE and NXT when they fuck up than I am on AEW. AEW, I have a laugh. NXT, I react more viscerally with genuine disappointment. AEW's got a lot going right now, and I don't want to just make CM Punk part of this big swath of people. But if you think about Aleister Black, or sorry, I should say Malachi Black, and Andrade, even though the Chavo thing is a bit weird, and the impending arrival of potentially Bryan Danielson, potentially Adam Cole, potentially Bray Wyatt. I gotta get used to calling him Bryan Danielson, because he's never been Bryan Danielson to me. And who knows what Bray Wyatt's going to be called, and Adam Cole, I think, is just excuse me. Gotta have a drink. It's not the Rona, I promise. It's just really warm today. It's insane. Last Rampage, we started off with the CM Punk thing, and we ended with that. They're not really a faction, but they're just like buddies hanging out together of Darby Allin, Dean Ambrose, John Moxley, and Eddie Kingston, with Sting on the outside, kind of like he's the dad taking his 3 kids to a rock show and just kind of hanging out in the parking lot. But I will say, for those of you that are like, you know, WWE might do good shit, but AEW's fun, I can't really not make that argument right now. And Darby Allin is one of the AEW guys that drew me into the show. Like, you got your Darby Allins, your MJFs, your Sammy Guevaras, your Jungle Boys, your Luchasauruses, all the... my chair doesn't want to stay still. That's awesome as well. It's not going very well for me tonight. But I will say, as a totally not... Okay, all the indie fans know who Hangman Page and the Bucks and Omega and all that, so I sort of put all of them to one side. As a genuine, like, here's AEW, here's our show Dynamite, here's some characters that we're going to show you, and this guy feels like he's an AEW guy. That's Darby Allin. And so you take the biggest sort of here's our guy in Darby Allin, and the biggest, I'm sorry, all due respect to Daniel Bryan, Adam Cole, Bray Wyatt, Malachi Black, all due respect to all those guys, the biggest name you could get your hands on in CM Punk. People are going to debate me on that. That's fine. I don't mind that in the slightest. The biggest name you could get from outside, and the biggest name you've built inside. And that is probably... There's going to be lots of great matches on All Out, but that's the main... That has to be the main event, isn't it? I don't want to sound like I'm downplaying other people, but that's got to be why Christian Cage is facing Kenny Omega. I know the other thing is Hangman Page had to go do family things, and good for him, congratulations and all that sort of thing. But Christian Cage is sort of like a placeholder, championship challenger in a way. He's a challenger you give to the champion so that the champion can have an outing when you know the championship is not going to be the main event. I hate to make another WWE comparison, but you always get those really weird contenders for the WWE title when the Royal Rumble comes around. Hardcore Holly and Dolph Ziggler and Rey Mysterio all come to mind. Christian kind of felt like that. And then they did the Impact title thing, but that sort of reinforced to me that, okay, we gave you this because we're not giving you this, and also you can go help Impact as well. If that's not the indicator that Omega's title defense is not going to be the main event, then I don't know what to tell you. But if you're going to have, because they have a structure to how their shows go, and all the power to them, and the title match should be the main event, if you're going to have a match that breaks that mold, it's going to be CM Punk versus Darby Allin. And people are out there and they're really sure that they want to help CM Punk come back with a punch. I can speak, I swear. And because of that, they're assuming that Darby's going to take a hard-fought, scrappy loss to the new guy coming back. But I wouldn't be so sure because of how Punk's been talking as he's come back. I want to work with these people. I want to work with these young guys. I want to feel like I did in ROH. Now, I won't speak to the ROH thing because I've never really been an ROH fan. It's not something I can speak intelligently to, so I won't. But listening to his promo and all that kind of thing, and how, you know, he built something for himself over there, now he wants to help these people build what they're doing here. I wouldn't be surprised if CM Punk's debut in the company is to give the ultimate shot in the arm to Darby Allin, and I think that would be really cool. Now, I'm not going to get any more into that match because Guapo and I next week are going to sit down. We are going to get Guapo back on the channel, and we are going to talk about All Out in its entirety. Dear God, that's going to be a long podcast because there's a lot to talk about. What do you got? You got the cage match, which is probably going to be the Lucha Brothers versus the Young Bucks. By the time most of you are listening to this, we're going to know who won that qualifying match on Rampage. As I say again, I'm recording this on Thursday, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be the Lucha Brothers. Although it wouldn't hurt my feelings if it was the Jurassic Express either. You got Pac and Andrade. You've got MJF and Jericho. Like I say, Omega and Christian Cage. You've got what I think is the dark horse of the night, which is Britt Baker and Chris Statlander. I love Chris Statlander. Chris Statlander's good shit. Big Show's going to come in and do Big Show stuff, and what do you want that to be? He's going to come out and punch QT, but whatever. By the time we get to the end of the night, AEW shows usually run long, and that's fine. They don't get criticized for it as much as WWE does, which is a bit weird, but that's fine. But with the amount of that's the matches that are on this card, you will exhaust the crowd in a good way. You need a match at the end of the night that's going to get people off their asses even though they're exhausted. And if that's not Punk and Darby, I don't know what is. It's really cool. They can't just continue. The only thing I will say, and it's not even a negative, it's I hope they don't do this, because this is the feeling that Dynamite gave me a little bit. They can't just have the guy that was known for cutting great promos come out and cut a great promo. You can't put the graphic up every week when you're running down all the matches for the when they run down the matches for the next Dynamite. It's like, oh, and Sting's gonna be here. Like, you can't just do, oh, and CM Punk will be here every week. After All Out, you are gonna have to throw him in matches on Dynamite once in a while. You are gonna have to throw him in matches on Rampage, or he's going to come off like a part-timer, which isn't going to reflect badly on him, because people love CM Punk and because they've waited so long for him to come back. If you portray him as a part-timer in any way, shape, or form, that's going to reflect badly on the company, not on him. It's a very strange thing. It's this thing we never thought we were going to have again. It's the same as when Edge came back from his injury. It's the same thing when Daniel Bryan came back from his injury. It will be the same, I bet you, if Paige comes back from her injury, or if AJ Mendez decides to join her husband in AEW. And rightfully so. It's just this thing you never thought you'd have again as a fan. So you become, as I say, and I've said it a lot as I've been rambling on here, you become more protective of them, or you become more protective of what you think they should be doing. And it'll be interesting to see AEW walk that tightrope. And I don't think they'll fuck it up. I think they know that Punk is a big enough deal that you can't afford to fuck it up, which is, they haven't always done the best debuts. The debut of the Dark Order, the debut of the Butcher and the Blade, when they came out, it's the Butcher and the Blade. Okay, who are the Butcher and the Blade? The debut of Matt Hardy is always a little bit off-putting, and even Tony Khan says he doesn't like it because he had to debut in front of nobody, and that sucks. If they spent all their, like, fuck-up chips on those guys, hate to say it, you can't afford to spend any fuck-up chips on CM Punk, because the crowd will let you know about it very, very quickly. I will say, the last thing before I move on to the next person, because I've already gone 17 minutes just on CM Punk, it'll be interesting to see what happens to the CM Punk chant, because in the absence of CM Punk, the CM Punk chant was a weapon against WWE. It was a, whatever you're putting on in front of me right now isn't working for me. Here's the last guy that I remember that did. But now, he's a guy that is back, and he's a guy that is doing things, and I don't think the fans will use it the same way. And the last thing I will say, and his little tongue-in-cheek promo that he cut on Dynamite, the hinting towards CM Punk, the hinting that CM Punk did towards Daniel Bryan, it's just gonna keep, they're just gonna keep rolling in. And as much as I want to be a smartass, as much as I want to say, oh, they're just hiring up everybody, I hope they don't get, accused of hoarding like other companies have, and as much as I want to be a smartass and I want to say that, oh, they're picking up another WWE guy, I can't even do it. I don't have the energy. Like, that argument is there, and that argument can definitely be had for another day. That argument will definitely be had when it's not me solo talking into my camera, for damn sure. I'll have that debate with Guapo. I'll have that debate with our good buddy Jake DeMarco. I'll have that debate with, who knows, maybe I get somebody else on here eventually, if Kristen decides to watch wrestling again. Shout out to Kristen, and we are going to have some more Flicks Fix for you guys soon as well. Those are all arguments that can be had, because I do think, as much as people don't want to admit it, there are validities to those arguments, but I don't have it in me right now to make those arguments. Right now I gotta be a mark. Right now I gotta be like, alright, AEW's firing right now, and they just gave me CM Punk. And I wasn't in Chicago, but the people in Chicago got ice cream bars. What else can you say about that? Moving swiftly on to WWE, to SummerSlam, to returns, to Brock Lesnar. This one's going to be a little bit more short and sweet and to the point. It's a retread of a story that already exists. It's Brock Lesnar and it's Roman Reigns. Brock Lesnar came back. He came back after Roman Reigns disposed of John Cena, as we probably knew he would. Now, at first I thought John Cena was going away. This is a slight side note as well. At first I thought Cena was going away. Now, they're going to MSG in a couple of weeks for a SmackDown, and apparently he's facing Finn Balor at that show. I don't know whether that's going to be part of the show or whether that's going to be a dark match for the live audience. If that's a dark match just for the live audience, that's a fucking good thing. I will say, I don't really like traveling. I'm usually okay waiting until WWE comes to Toronto. I do want to see a show at Madison Square Garden. That is on my very short bucket list. But if I was going to see a match, John Cena versus Finn Balor in a dark match at Madison Square Garden would be something I would want to catch. But I mean, I don't know. Friggin' Roman put away Edge. John Cena came back. He put away John Cena, and Brock Lesnar came back. If he puts away Brock Lesnar, Rock will come back, and if he puts away The Rock, then who comes out next? They haven't left him with very much to do, or sorry, they haven't left him with very much time without something to do, since they got this new Roman and they've realized that this is the Roman that we all like. They've done the thing with the cousins. He's brainwashed both of the cousins. We can always do the turnaround and say that one of them turns and wants to break away from the family and be the standout sort of baby face and face Roman. And if Jay, because it's going to be Jay, Jimmy came in sort of after the fact. It was a Jay and Roman story for a while. If they build up Jay enough that he can go to a pay-per-view, maybe even a Big Four pay-per-view, and unseat his cousin for that title, and Roman holds on to the title for that long, that's fucking brilliant. But Brock Lesnar coming back, it's one of those things that at this point, everybody knows it's coming. Everybody can feel it coming. Everybody performatively groans and hates it and whatever, but it's not like Goldberg. Goldberg, who nearly killed The Undertaker in Saudi Arabia, and do with that what you will. But it's not, though. As much as you begrudgingly groan at him, or you flip your bird off at the screen, or you flip the bird off in the arena because that's what you're supposed to do as a wrestling fan, Brock Lesnar brings numbers. Brock Lesnar comes in and makes the ring feel bigger. I'm not saying you have to like him. It's very comparable to John Cena in a way. They're very different characters, but John Cena comes in the ring, and now there's a star in the ring. The Rock comes into the ring, now there's a star in the ring. Brock Lesnar, in a very different way, in WWE, in the context of WWE, comes in, and there is a wrecking machine star in that ring. Especially now, because now he comes out, he's got the beard, he's got the little weird mohawk ponytail thing, and he looks like the villain. Everybody has said this. Everybody has said this, from Joe Cronin to Simon Miller to Wrestling Jesus to everybody, I think, has said some version of Brock Lesnar came back looking like a video game villain. And it's kind of true. He looked huge. He looked like somebody's got the side-by-side pictures of Dean Ambrose in the exact same attire and Brock Lesnar, and they're all just saying Dean Ambrose. Dean Ambrose didn't go to AEW. He just morphed into Brock Lesnar. It is big. And him versus Roman is big because we remember so much all the matches that Brock Lesnar had with the old Roman Reigns. Old Roman Reigns, who we were supposed to hate because he's the next John Cena, Roddy, and Brock Lesnar, who you're supposed to groan at because he's the part-timer and you're supposed to boo the part-timer, Roddy. Now, before, when he faced the old Roman Reigns, who was the babyface that nobody liked, even though people did, because numbers and shit prove it, there was an impending feeling of, yeah, here's this big monster that's going to squash everybody else, and then Roman's going to squash him because everybody falls to Roman. Roman, Super Roman is the next Super Cena and all that sort of thing. But now, you take that same feeling, and it's this Roman that you like, this evil Samoan Godfather type character that he's got going on right now. Sorry, I'm trying to find words. This Samoan Godfather, mob boss type character that he's created now, and he still has that. And now you can take this version of Roman that you like, that you know is going to win, and be happy that he's going to beat the big bump in the road Brock Lesnar that you have to performatively hate because that's what the wrestling rulebook says. Now, I want Brock Lesnar to go to Raw because I want something to happen on Raw, realistically speaking. And because, honestly, Roman goes and destroys Brock Lesnar on his way to something else, and you get Lesnar versus Lashley, which is fine and wonderful and all that kind of thing, because we don't need to run back Lashley versus the New Day. We don't need to run back Lashley Goldberg, even though we're probably going to do that in Saudi Arabia. We don't need to run back Lashley and McIntyre, because as long as WWE remembers their stipulations, that match can't happen because of, we beat you last time and you don't get another shot. Have one match, have a one-off with Roman and Brock for another reason that we're going to talk about in a second, and then go and give us the interesting thing of Lesnar versus Lashley, because even people that don't like either guy have kind of said, yeah, that match has to happen eventually, and I'm going to be cool with that, because both big returns that happened at SummerSlam benefit SmackDown. If I'm the USA Network, I'd be throwing my hands up in the air, because Raw's got nothing, they're gutting NXT, and SmackDown is on Fox. So the only other thing I really have to say, and it's the most obvious thing, is not Roman, not Brock, the chubby guy in the suit that was shitting his pants on Saturday when Brock Lesnar came back, and that's Paul Heyman, because the obvious tie between the two of these guys is, Roman Reigns and the Bloodline are Heyman guys, and so is Lesnar, and now Lesnar's staring down Roman, and where does Paul Heyman fit in the mix, and does Brock Lesnar become a good guy? Brock Lesnar as a good guy intrigues me a lot. I don't know what that looks like. I know he was a babyface for a little bit before he really discovered who he was, before he disappeared to UFC, before he thought he was going to go play football. I know they played with that a little bit before they settled in what the Brock Lesnar, Paul Heyman dynamic is, but as the Brock Lesnar that we knew the last time we saw him, sort of just before COVID, and even at the Nobody's There WrestleMania when Drew beat him. God, remember when they were treating Drew like a champion? That's a whole other episode, isn't it? I want to see what Lesnar looks like as a babyface, but the thing is, once again, is I kind of want to see that on Raw, because that is intriguing enough that it gives me something intriguing to watch on Raw, other than Alexa Bliss, who's incredibly underrated and being targeted unfairly. So give me Raw, where I can see Alexa Bliss, who's awesome, and I can see babyface video game character Brock Lesnar go after heel Bobby Lashley. And Brock Lesnar can speak for himself, that's what babyfaces do, and he'll be going up against Lashley, who has a mouthpiece. And just that alone will be such a cool dynamic, and it'll be something so different. We had such a drastic change with Roman Reigns, and it worked. They took a gamble that could have fallen in the toilet, and it worked. You can definitely do the same thing with Lesnar, especially if you consider if they try this with Lesnar and it doesn't work, he'll just fuck off for a bit, and then they'll come back and hit the reset button. So, lot of weird, different opportunities present themselves with the return of Brock Lesnar, and yeah, of course he's going to go after Roman because of their history, and like I say, I'm repeating myself now, but it is what it is. Now, the other return at SummerSlam. We need some star power on the main roster WWE Women's Division. We have Charlotte. We have Bayley, even though she's injured, and I'll get to that. And we have Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair sort of holding the SmackDown title hostage. Oh, except we don't! Because Sasha Banks was unable to attend SummerSlam. And then her replacement was announced as... I do feel bad, though, because Carmella got jobbed at the Big 4 pay-per-view in front of a big stadium and made to look like an absolute turd, because she came out as Sasha Banks' last-minute replacement. Everybody booed. The crowd booed. Bianca Belair laughed at her. Even the announcers kind of laughed at her a little bit. Everybody online. You guys, I think most of you guys know I listen along with the What Culture watch-along stuff, and I know there's other people that do cool stuff too. I know Joe Cronin Show has done it in the past. I know Good Mike Work has done it in the past. And I will say, for all those guys that do that, no matter who you watch on YouTube, if you have company for wrestling, it's different, but if you are watching a show by yourself, throw on one of the watch-alongs. It does change your viewing experience, whether it's somebody you agree with, somebody you disagree with, whether it's somebody you're listening to for the first time or anything. Do give that a shot, because It is a lot of fun. It does change your watching experience, and it's not quite the same as necessarily having company over, but I mean, we've just had almost 2 years now where we weren't allowed to have any company over, so gotta do something. The bottom line is Carmella was sort of used as the disposable pawn here, because you think that the match is going to be Bianca Belair versus Carmella, and because she's Bianca Belair, that she's going to destroy Carmella and steamroll like she's steamrolled the rest of the division for a while. It's insane, before I get into who we're about to talk about, that I've made no bones about it. I don't like Sasha Banks, I don't like Bianca Belair. And yes, people want to translate that into a conversation about racism, except it's just because they're annoying. Bring up Ember Moon. Get Ember Moon to kick Bianca Belair's ass. Bring up Kaden Carter. Let Kaden Carter kick her ass. I don't know, bring over Big Swole from AEW and have her kick their ass, because these are awesome people that are awesome on their own terms. Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair have basically held that title hostage, and they've done it in two different ways, because Sasha Banks came back, I guess it was in the wind that we were going to have crowds again, so she could come back. She took the title off of Bayley. Now, all due respect to Bayley, Bayley was one of the most entertaining things through the entire COVID era / Thunderdome era. So why would we bother showing her some credit and some respect? No, as soon as it's personally convenient to do so, Sasha Banks come back and took that off of her and carried the title to WrestleMania, so that the two of them could be gifted a main event. And then after that, I don't know what happened, because the two of them held the division, like I say, they held the division hostage in two different ways. Sasha Banks fucked off again, because she's a part-timer. And I'm not going to debate that in this video either. If you want to seriously debate, come at me. Come at me. Find the Spaz Phoenix podcast Facebook group. Find me on Twitter at Spaz Phoenix, at Spaz Phoenix 1. Find me on Instagram at Spaz Phoenix. Put it down in the comment section below. There's not going to be a chat because this isn't going to go out on Premiere, but put it down in the box below. Find me any way you want and debate to me at this point that Sasha Banks is not a part-timer. You can't. Because she came back just in time for there to be crowds at WrestleMania, fucked off, came back when the shows went back to having live crowds again, and just in time to be handed another Big Four main event. And now she made herself unavailable, and we can't speculate as to why. But basically, they had their WrestleMania main event given to them, and then Bianca had the title, so she just steamrolled everybody else like there's nobody else in the division, and Sasha Banks fucked off so that when she comes back she could have another triumphant return, or whatever you want to call it. Now, big problem comes in where Sasha Banks is not available for SummerSlam. So what do? We bring out Carmella to bring everybody's hopes really far down, which is unfortunate because Carmella's stupidly underrated. And then you bring in an actual returning star in Becky Lynch. An actual star. Not a star that you have to cheer for because if you don't, somebody's going to judge you. Not a star that you have to cheer for because you're scared if you don't, somebody's going to call you racist or judgmental or you have an agenda or whatever. A star that's just a star. Now, all due respect to Ronda Rousey and Charlotte Flair, because they're also great in their own way. Ronda Rousey had the best, probably, rookie year of anybody in recent memory, and Charlotte Flair is one of, if not the best, actual wrestlers on the roster. But the star power of Becky Lynch drove the first ever true women's WrestleMania main event. Now, there was a whole lot of WrestleMania after Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks. So was it really a main event? Not really. It was kind of a main event. You bring out Becky Lynch. She says, she soaks up all the adulation that she absolutely deserves. Crowd goes nuts. Crowd goes banana. Because Bianca Belair can't maintain kayfabe at all. She's having a laugh. She's having a chuckle. Bianca Belair sort of treats Carmella like a jobber, which is kind of a bummer for Carmella, but Carmella is also stuck in a faction kissing ass to Sasha Banks, so she's already in the toilet. They step up, they have the, hey, why don't you burn down SummerSlam with the man, or whatever it was that she said. Bianca Belair tried to take a cheap shot, she took her down, she used the manhandle slam, which I guess is her new finishing move, and pinned her in about 20 seconds. And I laughed. I laughed hard because I knew what Twitter was going to be for the next hour, for the next day, for the next week, for the next month. Here's the problem. Here's the problem. Nobody complained about shit like this when Sheamus kicked the head off of Daniel Bryan and that started the Yes Movement. Nobody complained about this when, who was it, Paige came out and debuted on Raw and got the surprise scoop victory in less than a minute over AJ Lee as her debut on the main roster. Nobody cares about this, except for right now, because they can attach a little social thing to it. What I loved, and you guys, anybody that's been watching this channel for a long time knows that I, in my own way, I have always had a soft spot in my heart for the Bellas, because I think they were labeled as divas. The wrestling community wouldn't let them be anything else. They were never the best wrestlers. I'm not saying they were, but the idea that the two of them didn't eventually grow over time and become contributing members to the thing. They were the ones wrestling when the Give Divas a Chance hashtag became a thing. So I've always had soft spot in my heart for the Bellas. I've always felt that the Bellas were really, really drastically underrated. Not that they should have been stars, not that they necessarily should have been going into the Hall of Fame just yet, not that they should be going over the Charlottes and the Beckys and all that sort of thing. But I've always sort of quietly respect, because they've got some grind. They did go and achieve other things. They did go start 2 new television shows. They did go start other businesses for themselves, and they did maintain some relevancy within the world of wrestling as well. But Nikki Bella, Jesus Christ, could you present yourself as any more of a bitter ex on social media? First of all, in Vegas, at her hotel room or whatever, it's like, oh, I guess this is what you do when you're not allowed to be at SummerSlam. So that was kind of catty, first of all. But then she goes on this big-ass rant about how, oh, I didn't have a favorite part of SummerSlam, especially that women's match. I cannot believe that disrespect and this and that and the next thing. And I'm just like, holy crap, you have taken titles off of people in less time. This performative, woke, SJW, politically correct garbage bothers me 10 times more when it comes out of the mouths of people that I used to respect. I'm sorry. Sasha Banks has been handed way too much, and from what I've heard, from the speculation that's out there, her not being at SummerSlam is her own damn fault. And I'm sorry, Bianca Belair, as somebody in the wrestling stratosphere, has been around for a cup of coffee, and Becky Lynch is a bigger star. If she went in there for that match, surprising her opponent, first of all. Second of all, she's a bigger star. She just is. If she went in there and had a scrappy little 50-50 match and, eked out a win, you've immediately diminished, you've immediately blown out the flame of one of the biggest returns you could possibly pull out of your ass. Now, there's people out there that are saying, oh, they did all these moves at SummerSlam to counteract CM Punk being there. And it's like, well, did they? Did they really? But I mean, if that's the case, yes, you pull out Brock Lesnar and you have him squash somebody. Yes, you pull out Brock Lesnar and you have him absolutely destroy Kofi Kingston. Because Brock Lesnar is a bigger star. And that's the comparison that everybody's making here. Because everything has to be about identity. Everything has to be about not what you are, not who you are, not what you can do, not where you are in the pecking order, but what label we can put you on. Everybody is now calling Becky Lynch the Brock Lesnar of the women's division, and they're putting some incredibly racial tones around that, and it's ridiculous. Becky Lynch came back, had a huge return, got a huge pop from the crowd. You can't deny it. You can't go back and edit it out. And she beat somebody because she is a bigger star than they are. Period. And in addition to that, this is gonna be the beginning of her heel turn. And Bianca Belair, even though she's obnoxious as fuck and has absolutely no positive attributes to her character, her fictional, let me be clear, her fictional character has no positive attributes whatsoever. She is more obnoxious than half of the heels that she's gone against. Please, again, put it down in the box below. Tell me I'm wrong. But Becky Lynch so the dirt sheets say, is coming back as a heel, which immediately I rejected. I rebuked that because I'm like, there's no way people are going to boo Becky Lynch. But at the same time, it then further came out that she wants to be a heel. She wants to, she knows that it didn't work last time, and she's done the pitch, and she's been working on ideas while she's been away being a mom. Congratulations to her and Seth for being parents, because there are some things bigger than wrestling. She's been working on ideas. She wants to try the heel turn thing again because she knows it fell on its face the first time around. And I will say this, what drove people nuts about me talking about the women's division on Raw and the whole Nikki Ash thing, I don't particularly buy the Nikki Ash thing. It's not for me. It's not for me in the sense that I don't like it, and it's not for me in its intended audience. It's a gimmick that was created for kids. It was created for people that want to feel good and watch after school specials and all that sort of thing. Do I enjoy the Nikki Ash gimmick itself? No. But I respect the fuck out of Nikki Cross for taking this idea that's a little outside the box and whatever, getting it past Vince, big, bad, evil, scary Vince that we're not allowed to say anything bad about. She went and got an idea past Vince and the creative team and whatever the other branches are. I will celebrate her being able to do that, even while being honest about, the gimmick's not quite for me. I don't love it, I don't hate it. It's just, I'm over here and it's sort of in a category over there. Now, take that, translate that logic that I'm trying to impart to you guys to the Becky Lynch thing. I don't particularly want to see her as a heel. I don't particularly think it's going to work because people love Becky Lynch. And, she had to leave, I won't say tragically because she went and made a family for herself, and that's awesome. But speaking strictly from a fan point of view, she had to leave, unfortunately, in the middle of her title run, which was at the middle of its hype, and she was one of the coolest things keeping us sustained while the ongoing Global Bastard was going on. So if this is what she wants to do, and she's pushed it past the desk, because I guarantee you, people in the back wanted that pop that she got at SummerSlam because she's the most over. So I'm pretty sure they are gun shy about turning her heel. So if she's got all these ideas that she's made while she's been off on maternity leave and whatever, and she's gotten them past the desk, even if they don't work for me, and yes, I'm putting, like I say, again, the gimmick is over here, I'm over here, I'm still going to give her props for getting her ideas onto the desk. And I really hope that makes sense. And for all we know, if this heel turn is coming from her head this time around and she knows herself better than a writer in a WWE writer's room would, for all we know, this time around, it could work, and it could be awesome. But even if it doesn't, even if they have to, about face and turn her baby face again, you can do that. You can backtrack it. It's not the Brock Lesnar thing where she can fuck off and come back in 6 months like nothing happened. But you can turn her face and it'll be fine. You can always backtrack if it doesn't work. I'm much more for, when we hear all the bad stories about WWE and how, creative has nothing for you, but also we don't want to hear any of your ideas. Bray Wyatt, who's no longer with the company, but look at the creative width and breadth that they gave him. Now, they couldn't do anything with the character that he created, which is their fault. But I'm down for anybody that's gotten their own shit onto the desk, I think is my point on that. And if she is going to be a heel, then Bianca Belair, who's a shitty babyface, is going to get the belt back eventually, because eventually the right kind of people will cry loud enough and it will just happen, and Becky Lynch will be a victim of circumstance, and then she'll lose it back to Sasha, and maybe Becky can move to Raw and feud with Rhea Ripley and probably have the best feud on the main roster. I'm really happy to see her back regardless. I can't wait to see what her and Brock Lesnar do on SmackDown. Like I say, SmackDown is a little bit loaded now, which is really cool. I think also SmackDown is where Shotzi Blackheart and Tegan Nox are going to take those women's tag team titles, which I'm also all here for. And SmackDown's an hour shorter than Raw. It just is. It's fine. Raw's 4 hours long now. After NXT last night, I feel like NXT is just an extension of Raw, and that just makes me really sad and really bummed, and my show is crumbling from the inside. NXT is infested with the WWE variant, and that's bad, isn't it? So, with that very, very morose transition, I am going to move over to NXT TakeOver, which was awesome. I'm going to give a quick tip of the hat again to Dragunov and Walter, who went in there and killed each other. Absolutely killed each other. But that's been spoken about enough. That I went into on my NXT review as well. Really, really cool to see Dragunov as champion. Really cool to see a couple of other things as well. One of the things that bummed me out was the women's championship match between Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai. Not because I don't want Raquel Gonzalez to be successful. She's awesome. She's coming along. She is good right now that will be great later. I hope that doesn't make me sound like an asshole. But it's just the fact that I wish she had dropped it to Dakota Kai, because Dakota Kai is the more interesting character to me. And Raquel Gonzalez, I said this on the review as well, so for those of you that did listen to my ranty review, sorry that I'm repeating a lot of my takes here, but you could have put Raquel on the main roster and had her feuding with some of the other monsters. Feud her with Rhea Ripley and Shayna Baszler and even Nia Jax and see what they can do, and have a little bit of a monster match on the main roster. That would have been fine. Then you get a dynamic character like Dakota Kai, who's long overdue for some recognition. Her and Candice LeRae, and I promise I'm going to get to the point eventually. Her and Candice LeRae being in a little bit of a different situation now because they're making baby wrestling over there. Everybody's having babies. We got Becky back. Now Candice is going out to have a baby. Her and Johnny are going to be parents. It's awesome. It's all good. So Raquel Gonzalez retains. Babyface Dakota Kai is going to the main roster. Don't ask. They ruined her, but not as much as they ruined Karrion Kross. And the immediate next step out challenger was the woman that debuted this week on NXT. The woman that actually had one of the high points of NXT for me this week, and that's Kaylee Ray from NXT UK. Now, a lot of people are going to look at me and say, you know, this is supposed to be like big breakout, like headline-grabbing names of the SummerSlam weekend. What are you talking about? I'm like, yeah. We needed something. For so long, I hung my hat, this very hat here, the gimmick hat, and hey, check that shit out. I was able to get a haircut because COVID's maybe potentially going away. I've actually legitimately tipped my hat to the NXT women's division, because I used to be able to say, and I can't even really say it anymore, I used to be able to say NXT's women's division was the equivalent of AEW's tag team division, and they're falling down on me recently for a lot of reasons. I don't know what they're doing with Ember Moon. They took Ember Moon away from Shotzi. They gave Shotzi another partner. They took Shotzi and Tegan Nox from the division, put them on the main roster. Now we've got Candice LeRae, as I say, going to have a baby. Good for her. Family stuff and all that. It's all good. And everybody else that I'm interested in that women's roster, because there are a lot of them, are sort of in that second, third tier. Now, that's not a dig. That means, to my mind, they've got a lot of room to grow, they've got a lot of room to develop, and when they do get a championship shot, I'll be happy for them. A lot of people knew Priscilla Kelly before she came to NXT. No. To me, Gigi Dolan, brand new wrestler. Let me see what she can do. Same thing with Cora Jade. Same thing with JC Jane. Same thing, for the most part, with Frankie Monet. Same thing with Jessie Camilla, who was falling out of her top on Tuesday, which was fine by me. But none of these are women that I was really going to put in the sphere of Raquel Gonzalez. Now you bring in Kaylee Ray, who's not only a badass, who's not only the longest reigning NXT UK women's champion in the history of that brand, mostly due to COVID, let's be fair, but she's also been over here. She's also locked up with Mia Yim on this brand. She's also taken part in War Games. She's also done, like, so she's new but not new, which made her the perfect infusion for this. I compared her to Walter, in the sense that Walter can come and be an attraction every now and then, and when he comes back to NXT, we know what that means. He can be their version of Brock Lesnar, I guess that's a comparison that I can make. As long as Walter comes here for a little bit, does some stuff, goes away, he maintains his ability to be an attraction, and now that he's not the champion, he can focus on being an attraction, and all of that works. Kaylee Ray, on the other side of the coin, is somebody that we've seen come over to do just enough stuff that I would have her on the roster full time. And it was announced, I believe, on No DQ was where I read it. So I think the credit has to go to Aaron Rift. I'm not sure. That she has transplanted herself and her family to the States, to Florida, to be a full-time part of the NXT roster. And that's fucking awesome. Because if Shotzi was still in NXT, what I would really want to see is either Shotzi and her having a good couple of matches as number one contender matches, and then one of them going after Raquel, or make that triple threat. Again, I say, like, I'm biased because I'm a huge fan of Shotzi Blackheart, but the idea that she wanted to bring hardcore wrestling into a WWE women's division environment was a really cool, inspiring thing. And then she got sort of sucked into the tag team with Ember Moon, which was awesome, and then that got taken apart and whatever. But I see Kaylee Ray come in, and she's not the same as Shotzi, obviously, but she's got a little bit of the unpredictability factor. She is a badass. She doesn't wrestle like she's scared. Like, I've seen footage of her before she came to, and then just, carrying on with the day type thing. Really, really excited to see, even if she doesn't get into the title picture right away, have a couple mini feuds, help. She's in the position now where she can help a couple of other people below her look a bit better as she's beating them to make her way to the championship picture. Does that make sense? I've made a lot of comments recently about losing like a winner. Kaylee Ray is the hard-ass heel type character that can take on the upstart scrappy babyface and help them not lay down for them, but help them lose like a winner so that when she ascends, they can also ascend, etc. So, headline making name for me, if nothing else, because I'm still trying to hold on to the scraps of NXT, but I know there's a lot of people there that think that's pretty low on the priority list, and if that's your take at the moment, I can't really blame you. What I will say, though, is a little bit of I should say a huge Band-Aid that they've put on NXT recently is the return of Samoa Joe. Now, Samoa Joe wasn't cleared to wrestle. Samoa Joe was released. Samoa Joe was brought back to NXT in a non-combat capacity, which we all knew was going to be crap. He was relieved of that duty quite quickly, became a wrestler again, got rid of the champion who was already not the champion, just still carrying the belt, and here we are. Now that's really, really harsh, because I really liked Karrion Kross. When you guys will remember, he debuted during COVID in an empty Full Sail, and the first words out of my mouth were, I can't wait to see this guy in front of a crowd. And fuck me, they've neutered him. I've said it before, I will say it again. Don't create a situation so bad that me, the big Jeff Hardy fan that I am, has to be mad that Jeff Hardy lost a match. They put him out there this week looking like Lord Tensai on Raw, which is not great. Samoa Joe was just there to basically say, yeah, you're done, and also I'm back. So there's a couple of things there. There was Karrion Kross, who I really enjoyed on NXT. Other people were like, oh, he's limited and he's just a character and all that type of thing. I don't mind that. Obviously, Scarlett is not hard to look at, looking Khaleesi as fuck. The whole package was great. And then the first time you saw him come out in the Thunderdome with no lighting and no Scarlett and just go 50-50 with... Okay, you want a prime example, and I'm going to backtrack here. You want to know why I didn't want a 50-50, like 10 minutes of 50-50 match with Becky Lynch on her return versus Bianca Belair? Go check out the episode of Main Event where neutered Karrion Kross came out on Main Event and had to go 50-50 with Shelton Benjamin. That's not a dig at Shelton Benjamin, but that's not how you debut somebody, and that's not how you return somebody in the Becky Lynch case. I will say, and it wasn't really brought up until the night, that... something that sort of went under the radar until TakeOver was actually happening is Samoa Joe's first 3-time NXT champion, which is awesome. Samoa Joe brings back a little bit of like the old school NXT back when it was good, when they had Balor, when they had Kevin Owens, when they had Sami Zayn, when they had the 4 Horsewomen, well, the 3 and Sasha Banks. And he's the same as I said about Lesnar. He fills the ring. He makes the ring feel different. He brings an ambiance with him. He brings an intensity with him that changes the whole scenario. You can put him in there with the goofiest opponent out there, and once he's in there, give him a microphone for 10 seconds. Whenever he went up to Karrion Kross and, just not telling him off, but just that calm, quiet, be careful, young champion. Those should not be terrifying words. Be careful, young champion, are just 4 words in the English language. Somehow, from Samoa Joe, they sound terrifying. When Samoa Joe was going after AJ Styles and his family and, deep into the camera, hey, Wendy, that type of thing. It was great. Samoa Joe will be a good hood ornament for the show. We know there's a lot of we know there's a lot of changes coming. We know there's a lot of young talent coming in. They're not hiring indie wrestlers. They're hiring newbies that they can mold in sort of the WWE image, and they're not going to go for the little guys anymore. They're going to go for the 6'5", 275 cookie cutters. They're not going to go for people over a certain age. You're going to get a lot of young, unexperienced people, and all these different changes that are coming in. We're going to make it a lot simpler. We may or may not be going back to Full Sail. All these different things, all these changes that are coming, and the only thing I can really cling to, realistically speaking, is that Samoa Joe is going to be the hood ornament of that for a while, and I think that's awesome. First of all, as I say, backtrack to the beginning of what I said. The fact that Samoa Joe was not medically cleared, and they were so sure that he wasn't going to be medically cleared that they moved him into the commentary position on Raw, and he did that great as well. Let's be real. The fact that they... And this is all hearsay. There's people... This is why I need somebody like Jake, who's more up on the news than I am. But, like, supposedly one of the reasons they thought it was okay to let him go was because his insistence on being an active talent again was becoming a problem. I don't know how true that is. Somebody can correct me down in the box below. So, he wasn't going to be cleared. And then, even if he was cleared, they weren't going to let him wrestle. And now he's come back to a show that supposedly will be more suited to the Samoa Joe style and maybe not have to be such a goofy guy doing 50-50 interviews with Brock Lesnar. And they put the belt on him, and they used him to shuffle out Karrion Kross, who they've already ruined. As I said with the Kaylee Ray thing, there's not much. I don't have much to sell you guys on NXT right now, other than I got my biases and I'm too stubborn for my own good. Kaylee Ray coming into that women's title mix, Samoa Joe currently walking around with that belt, are all good things. But I mean, over the course, this is how I'm going to wrap this up because I've been rambling for way too long now. Over the course of the weekend, if I can pull out 5 headlines from one weekend, CM Punk, obviously the one that everybody wants to talk about. Brock Lesnar is going to toss opinions 50-50. Becky Lynch would be blowing up as much as CM Punk if she hadn't beaten the unbeatable, and if you're one of those people, suck my dick. I don't care. Samoa Joe being a champion again is always good, and Kaylee Ray throws something else into the mix. These are the 5 names that made headlines to me over SummerSlam weekend. Put it down in the box below. What was your favorite part of the weekend? Is there somebody other than these 5 that you think should be the headline of the weekend? Please tell me. Please tell me. Please put it down in the box below so that YouTube knows that people are actually watching me. I don't have much to do or to say other than that. Other than one more time, I'm gonna send some love out to my buddy Jake. Was supposed to be doing this with me. Life kicked him in the bum. We don't like that. Go show him some love. Go send him something obnoxiously offensive on Twitter at Countdown Ended and just say it's from Spaz. It'll be all good. I'm done talking. I'm losing my voice. When I'm by myself, I have to talk twice as much, and nobody really wants to hear me talk twice as much, do they? So I'm gonna wrap it up. I've been Spaz, your YWC reality check. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation. Keep all these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I will talk to each and every last one of you later, but for right now, I'm tagging out. Bye, guys.